people had hoped that with Trump's return, the war would quickly come to an end. But now Trump has once again changed his tune. He's once again a friend of Ukraine and has declared that Russia is going to feel something very soon. On Monday, he is expected to make a major announcement regarding Russia. Meanwhile, Chancellor Merz has stated that the time for diplomacy is over. Weapons are once again flowing into Ukraine. Even the United States has approved the first aid tranche since Trump became president. Unfortunately, peace is once again very far away. The fighting continues, and we continue to analyze the situation on the front lines. Let's open the map. So friends, today's update will be a very busy one. There have been multiple advances, and in a wide variety of areas. It's been a long time since we've seen progress like this on so many different sections of the front. So enjoy the update. Let's start with the Sumy region. If the recent updates from Sumy haven't exactly been encouraging, today's news is much better. Over the past 24 hours, Russian forces have taken control of an entire section, totaling 2 square kilometers, advancing 1.2 kilometers. From the village of Holubitsia in the direction of Myropilya. What's more, we've already managed to reach the northern outskirts of Myropilya. In fact, there's objective control footage confirming the presence of Russian fighters on the northern edge of the village. Even American cartographers have marked our advance into the village. You can see it for yourself, they've marked it in red. Though in reality, the zone under Russian control is a bit larger than what's shown on their map. At least from the first circles of the area, I know that Russian troops have also entered Zhyolta Street. But no matter, the main point is that the assault on Myropilya has officially begun. And as you can see from the map, it's a very large village, roughly 3 times bigger than Unakivka. Capturing it would be a major success and would create good conditions for further advances. Because again, a large village like this makes for a great place to amass equipment and manpower. So that's the update for the Sumy region. We advanced 1.2 kilometers, took control of 2.3 square kilometers, and entered Myropilya. As for Kondrativka, there's no additional news. Russian troops remain in operational encirclement there, as I told you yesterday. But they are holding their ground, not surrendering the village or retreating. Moving on, the Russian army also had success in Kharkiv region. And interestingly, even previously stagnant sectors are starting to show signs of activity and progress. This time, it was the area west of Manuilivka. The last time we saw movement, there was back in April, 3 months ago. But over the past 24 hours, Russian forces managed to advance 1.3 kilometers toward Petropavlivka. The area may seem small, but in reality, over 1.5 square kilometers have come under Russian control. As for future prospects, honestly, I don't know. It's a difficult area. As I mentioned, it's mostly been inactive. At first glance, it might seem like there are no populated areas nearby, but the terrain here makes things complicated. It's full of elevation changes, hills, ravines. More hills, more ravines. That's why it's not possible to move quickly here, as we do in southern Donetsk, where the landscape is mostly flat fields. Here, it's all hills and ravines. Still, even this kind of progress is a good sign. But the situation is even better farther south, where there was a breakthrough of 4.5 kilometers. Now we move from Kharkiv region to Donetsk, specifically to the Lyman sector. There are 2 pieces of news here, one good and one not so good. Which should we start with? Let's start with the not so good one. The issue is in Rydkodub. A couple of weeks ago, the Ukrainian Armed Forces, AFU, counterattacked there and managed to push us back in the western part of the village. It didn't seem critical at the time. This happens on the front lines. They push a bit, then you counterattack and regain your positions. But this time, we didn't manage to retake the positions, despite some military correspondents and bloggers claiming otherwise, that the AFU had been pushed out and everything was back under control. As you may recall, I didn't say that, because it wasn't true. The AFU continued to hold the western part of Rydkodub. And now, in the past 24 hours, they launched a powerful counterattack and have now pushed Russian forces out of the central part of the village as well. The current situation, 80% of Rydkodub is under Ukrainian control. We're now holding only the eastern part of the village. The area that has changed hands amounts to 1.7 square kilometers. But there's also good news from the Lyman sector, as I said. It's to the south of Ridkodub. Take a look at this. Over the past few days, Russian troops have launched several powerful attacks and advanced 4.5 kilometers, managing to drive the AFU out of the village of Zelenaya Dolina. By midday yesterday, footage confirmed our presence with flags raised in the center of the village. The territory now under Russian control totals 8.5 square kilometers. So despite the issues in Ridkodub, we're still showing good results. 8.5 square kilometers is a solid gain. Now, following the capture of Zelenaya Dolina, I expect the advance will proceed in two directions. First, westward toward the river, to secure that section and strengthen the very narrow strip of territory we control there. As you can see, we've moved quite far ahead, but the front there is very narrow. That always leaves us vulnerable to potential flank attacks, especially with the current setbacks in Ridkodub. Second, the advance will likely continue southwest toward Shadrihalov. There's a direct road from the village leading there. And Shadrihalov borders Drobyshev, which in turn borders Lyman. That's the configuration of the front in this area. We'll continue to monitor the situation together. We move on. Good news also came from the eastern flank of Mirnohrad. The operation to encircle the large Pokrovsk agglomeration continues. Over the past 24 hours, Russian forces managed to advance 1.2 kilometers north of Koptyevo. As a result, the village of Novotoretskoye, which is currently the next immediate target, is now blocked from the eastern side. There are only 2 kilometers between our positions and the village, so I think fighting will begin there soon. The main objective, as I've mentioned before, is to take Novotoretskoye, then Zapovednoye, and move toward the railway hub of Dorozhnoye, to physically cut off supply routes to the agglomeration from the north. There's a railroad running through this area, and just beyond the railway junction, there's a highway as well. If only Russian troops could also advance from the west, but unfortunately, things are stagnant there. There's been no movement either from Udakny or from Kotlin. And yet Kotlin is just 5 kilometers away. Cutting off the road would change everything. But you know, it was also 5 kilometers back in February, and it's still 5 kilometers now. So basically, zero progress. A bit further south, near the Dnipropetrovsk region, the AFU launched a counterattack over the past 24 hours and managed to advance 200 meters, entering the northern outskirts of the village. It's unlikely this will amount to anything. It's more of a local positional improvement, since the area gained is less than 0.1 square kilometers, around 0.09 to be precise. Meanwhile, our forces also improved their position slightly, but already on the right bank in Kamenske. The advance was small, just 260 meters, but it's now clear we've firmly entrenched ourselves on the right bank, and despite the AFU maintaining a presence in the northern part of the village, Kamenske is undeniably lost to them. Fighting will soon begin for the next village, Plavny. The AFU are in a tough spot here, and in southern Donetsk, although the map hasn't yet been updated, I'll give you a bit of a spoiler for tomorrow. Good progress has been made. Our forces managed to break through to another village, Novokadske. The AFU are unable to stop the advance of the Vostok grouping. Russian FPV drones are already striking targets on the outskirts of Sumy. The Russian army continues its campaign to systematically neutralize territorial recruitment centers, TCCs, across various regions of Ukraine. While earlier strikes were reported in Kharkiv and Zaporizhzhia, this time drones reached Odessa. As of now, local authorities and TCC leadership have not commented on the strikes. Meanwhile, residents have shared footage allegedly showing strikes on the regional TCC building in the Moldovanka district. It is reported that several drones hit the site. Military registration databases and various documents are being destroyed, slowing down the forced mobilization process. These strikes also have a strong informational and psychological impact. Now, Peskov's key statement. Europeans are discussing various financial support options for Ukraine to encourage Kyiv to continue fighting to the last man. The stubbornness of European leaders regarding the potential deployment of troops to Ukraine fits into the overall trend of anti-Russian sentiment. The deployment of foreign military forces on Ukrainian territory near Russian borders is unacceptable to Moscow. Russia is disappointed that its warnings about the possible presence of foreign troops in Ukraine are being ignored. Chancellor Merz is a consistent advocate of confrontation with Russia in every aspect. Moscow takes this into account in its decision-making. As for the US plan to sell weapons to NATO countries for shipment to Ukraine, it's all business. Changing the order of the terms doesn't change the outcome. The prisoner exchange process between Russia and Ukraine continues. Work is ongoing, and Moscow is awaiting proposals for the timing of the next negotiation round. Sergei Lavrov also made a statement. "I'll say this, expect big surprises." Lavrov responded to Trump's statement with a comment about a new Ukraine plan, which he presented during his meeting with Rubio. Russia's foreign minister stated that during a conversation with the US Secretary of State, he reaffirmed Russia's fundamental position on Ukraine. He also noted that they did not discuss the fate of the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, START. Rubio had earlier said that Lavrov presented him with a new plan to achieve peace in Ukraine, which he would relay to US President Trump. A few days ago, Trump told reporters that he would not disclose any future US steps regarding Russia and promised to deliver a little surprise. In response to Trump's surprise and erratic statements, Moscow replied in kind. "We're watching." Now, the fight over military budgets. The UK Ministry of Defence released a damning report on the